So, Robbie, this was the 1992 FA Cup final against Sunderland that I played in when I was 20. Look at the size of me there, about 6 stone wet through. And I could just
to be fair, you're only 7 stone now, so don't worry about it.
Where were you at that time?
Yeah, no, I was a young lad coming through the youth teams. I remember the semi-finals, both against, both games against Portsmouth. And obviously going to this game, it was all about Graham Souness. Obviously, he'd just come back from his, from his problem with his heart, and him coming back. And I remember, obviously, all the talk beforehand was about, look, if Liverpool score, you can't celebrate, and you can see the doc just grabbing hold of him. Anyone will tell you, whenever you play for a manager who gives you that first opportunity to get involved in a football team, I think you always have a real bit of a soft spot for him. I think the way he certainly was with me and the way he was with all the younger players was brilliant. I think one of the problems he did have was, if we use legends far too much in football nowadays, but Liverpool was a team and it was just full of absolute bona fide legends. The likes of Rushy, the likes of John Barnes, all these great players, Jan Molby, who were necessarily coming towards the end of their career. And I think that was probably one of the problems that Graham had. And look, I think he tried to change things a little bit too quicker. So everything that Graham was trying to instill into us as players back in '93 was what every club's doing now. So it was just probably hard for a lot of players who won everything by being just these players who were going to have, chips or steak in pre-match, and then all of a sudden Graham is bringing the sports science in, and you'll probably agree with me here. I think that the fact is that he did maybe try and change it too quickly, as opposed to being a gradual change sort of went against him. I think he's probably one of the good managers, or one of the great managers I certainly played under.
So, Robbie, this was your amazing hat-trick against Arsenal. What can you remember about this in 1994?
You know what? Surprisingly, quite a lot, to be honest. I think in terms of the goals and me coming into the first year, this was probably really my first year of starting football. And I mean, you mentioned before about Arsenal, how good they were and how solid and all round defensively they were such a good team. But for me as a young kid to come in and play for Liverpool was fantastic. But to score goals against the calibre of the players that we were up against here was fantastic. And you see, obviously yourself,
amazing,
I think we had
amazing assist.
Yeah, what we did, we had that was my favourite, wasn't that? So we had a great relationship certainly in playing, didn't we? But I think we had a real good understanding, because obviously not only were we mates on the pitch, but we were mates off it as well. So I think we always sort of looked out for each other, more so you than me, more so you for me, as opposed to the way around. It was, and for me as a young kid, scoring goals for Liverpool was fantastic. And I mean, this was obviously my favourite goal for what it was. I think not too many people talk about the movement beforehand, where I sort of went to drop and then made a run, and then obviously John Barnes found me. So yours probably wasn't the favourite assist in that game. It was probably John Barnes. You've had many more.
What was the most difficult goal to score? Was it that third one? Because you needed to, it wasn't just this shot. It was the fact that you had to compose yourself and get back into play.
Well, funny enough, I think it was, I was disappointed in missing the first chance, actually, and then obviously coming back to it. So the fact is that, I managed to sort of steady myself and compose myself, really quick, and then put it back onto my right foot and then put it into the far corner. I think that was my favourite goal. And obviously proud of the fact is that it was a Premier League record for 20 years. I think it still should be a Premier League record, because mine was against obviously a great Arsenal team, but it's Sadio Mane who the way you look at it is unfortunately for me. But mine was against a real good Arsenal team, but his was against a poor Aston Villa team, so mine was well better.
Moving on to one of the most memorable games in Premier League history, let alone that year, the first 4-3 against Newcastle. I've looked at this many times. I just remember the game just getting completely out of control. I think that's the best way I can describe it. People say to me, couldn't you stop it? Could you be more defensive? Could Newcastle be more defensive? And I just remember that the game just overtook all of us, and there was nothing that anybody could do apart from just join in and enjoy the ride, really.
I think you're spot on. I think it ebbed and flowed, and I think when you talk about certainly us that year and the way we were as a team, I think Newcastle were the players they had, the likes of Les Ferdinand, Ginola, and other great players who whenever they played, you sort of knew that the games were going to be high scored, and if you were going to score, because you knew they were capable of going into games, winning and obviously causing defensive problems. We went into this game obviously quietly confident, wanting to do well and really having the idea that we could do well with the players that we had.
I always remember that Roy Evans after the game, as much as we were all thrilled when we came in at 4-3, he was so angry the way the game went. The way it was just, as you rightly said, then just completely out of control. And they could have won, we could have won, it could have been 3-3. And, there was nothing he could do. There was nothing either manager could say on the sidelines. Any instructions were just completely, irrelevant, because the game just went one end to the other end, to the other end, to the other end. And, of course, it was 4-3 the following year. But the following year, we absolutely hammered them and should have been 10-0 up, let alone 3-0 up and then getting dragged back to 3-3. So I always remember this game for just the atmosphere under the lights, the fans, the crowds. Of course, both sets of fans was just absolutely on fire, really, wasn't it? Well, let's go from what was a fantastic game to what was probably an unforgettable game for us in the 1996 FA Cup final. Can you remember much about this game? I personally can't remember hardly anything about the game.
No, honestly, I can remember the goal, and this was probably one of my... if I could go back and change anything in my life, it would be this game. Honestly, it was... I spoke before about going into the FA Cup. The FA Cup was one of the biggest competitions that I wanted to win. The first competition I wanted to win. I was 21 at the time. Playing against Manchester United. This was billed as the greatest FA Cup show ever. But other than this, I do not remember any chances in the game. I do not remember any chances they've had, what we've had. Other than the fact is that there was 4 players on the line there who should have stopped the goal, and it was just a real horrible moment.
Did I ever tell you about the day I was leaving? When did they tell you that? Can you remember? I would have told you before most people, though, wouldn't I? No, you did. We did. We were having a quiet drink, and you told me, and I remember being gutted actually. Obviously, made up in a way because I knew you were obviously going to a great team, and I wanted you to be successful. And while I'm on this, in fact I'm glad you brought it up, because you were probably the player, one of the best players who've gone overseas and been the most success. So I think that gets overlooked with yourself. But I think from the initial time when you told me that you were leaving, I remember being gutted, not only for the simple fact is that you were a mate and you were leaving. But also the fact is that I just felt we were leaving, or we were losing a great player, and I understood the reasons, obviously why, and I knew the reasons why. But look, of course I remember it, ever so much really when you did say. I remember being, I think I almost cried, Stephen. So moving on, this is the year after I've left Liverpool, Robbie, the year 2000, and this is Real Madrid against Valencia.
What a goal, what a finish, Stephen.
Yeah.
Really. I love watching that as well, because I'd love to have been there, obviously celebrate with you, but I was delighted. You know what I love, and I've said this to you before, but what I love watching you about, and that's probably the most animated I've seen you with a goal that you've scored. And when I think about all the goals that I've scored, and I think you get more delight in setting up or assisting goals, and that one was, for me, was brilliant, and I loved it. But just to see the light on your face as opposed to not really seeing it, because you're always trying to be a little bit too cool and calm and collected. But that one was absolutely fantastic. But I always loved the fact is that you had more enjoyment assisting as opposed to scoring.
That goal and the celebration, of course, my mother had passed away, as you know, the year before, so that was the first year, and that celebration, I ran over to my dad and my brother and my sister and all our friends. That's what they were like behind the Real Madrid bench. That's why I celebrated over there, and it was actually to my dad's, really. That's why I celebrated like that, just to show my appreciation to all of them. What can you remember about this day? Because this was of course a strange game, and Liverpool won it late on.
I remember being absolutely devastated that I never started the game. This was a year where myself, Emil Heskey, Michael Owen played a lot. But this is billed as obviously the Michael Owen cup final. It was 1-0 down. we were 1-0 down when I came on. Oh, you know, we've got to change that. Yeah,
I think so. The man who changed the game.
I also played in a part in this goal as well, where you can see obviously that the ball was bouncing around, and I'm not sure who was holding off, but I was holding off one or two of the defenders with my strength, and Michael managed to get the equaliser. Michael using his pace here. Michael was not renowned for having the greatest left foot, but I mean, what a finish straight into the corner, and obviously giving David Seaman no chance, and me, I think I was probably one of the first there. There you go, told you.
You were one of the quickest, that's why, mate. You were one of the quickest.
Oh, I should have scored. I don't really remember that.
Do you remember that? No, that was right near the end of the game. I didn't know whether you should have put Michael Owen in with your right foot, or I always knew you were just time wasting, you see. I think that's what you were trying to do. When you see there, it was literally the last phase of the game.
Yeah, well, maybe he should have gone round the keeper and passed it to Michael, to be honest. But
or run to the corner flag.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe that would have a bit self. I just wanted to score in the FA Cup final. I knew how long was left, you see. When you think of UEFA Cup finals and Champions League finals, I think Liverpool are synonymous with having probably the best games. Obviously the Milan one, and obviously this one in the UEFA Cup. I remember, you know, the three sides of the ground just full of Liverpool fans. Again, disappointed they never started a game, coming on, you know, wanting to do well, and managing to, you know, to get a goal which should have been the winner. Jordi Cruyff scored in injury time to put it into extra time.
Looking back, you cannot believe that we went through that little couple of years where we had these golden goals and silver goals. It's just madness looking at it, that a deflected goal like that into the net suddenly, you know, wins and loses a UEFA Cup final.
I just remember like people being a little bit puzzled about, you know, what happens now? The goal went in, and everyone was aware of the significance of the goal at that bit. I think everyone realised the significance in terms of it's put us ahead, but I don't think people realise the significance of we've won it because of that moment. But certainly from a selfish point of view, from me, you know, getting the chance to pick up another trophy was incredible.
What did you do after the game? Did you just come back to Liverpool, or did you stay in Dortmund?
You know what? It was a real surreal week actually, and it was probably one of my best weeks in football. I was disappointed I never played in the FA Cup final, which was on the Saturday. Then we played that on a Wednesday, but then we were back home to Liverpool because we had a game that we needed to win to qualify for the Champions League. So that week of football was just incredible. It's about, you know, it was great winning stuff. It was great winning all the cups that we won that year. But I think we probably got more out of qualifying for the Champions League as well, which capped off an unbelievable season. And obviously that, me doing the caterpillar. What am I doing? What am I doing? I like the way Michael Owen was just bouncing as if he was going to have a go, but he decided not to. Yeah, well, that's probably the reason why I never played actually.
Oh, that's brilliant. So Robbie, after that wonderful 2001 campaign where you beat Alaves and then of course scored a really important goal against Charlton, you left Liverpool about 6 months after that. Can you tell me, you know, what the story around that was?
Yeah, I think quite simply, I think when, you know, I spoke about that year and, you know, me not playing as many games as what I would have liked, you know, the games that I did play, you know, I've done relatively well, scored goals, but it just became, you know, evident that I wasn't going to play as many games as what I would have liked. As much as it was my decision to leave, you know, I did feel forced out. You know, obviously fell out with managers, obviously because I wasn't playing, but I knew, you know, that, you know, people at the club were trying to sell me. I'd accepted a bid from Aston Villa. Chelsea tried to buy me. I remember speaking to Gianluca Vialli, and I wasn't interested. But obviously, the more I sort of went back to the club, and, you know, I was speaking to them and saying, look, you know, I don't want to go, and, you know, they were saying that, well, you know, you're not for sale. But I knew behind the scenes that they were trying to sell me. And I think for my own sanity, I mean, you know what I'm like. I'm awful when I'm not playing. You know, I wanted to play, and all of a sudden Leeds came in, you know, with a good offer, and I knew at that time Leeds were a top club, you know, obviously pushing for Premier League. I just decided, well, look, I think it's best if I do leave, because I'm not really going to play much here.
How did this happen? Because as far as I'm concerned, I think this was the greatest game I've been at.
when you're playing at Anfield on a European night, when you score a goal, I mean, the noise is incredible, and I mean, your adrenaline is lifted so much more just for that particular moment, and it makes you run a little. You feel quicker, you feel stronger, you feel better than everyone else, and I think that's what happened with Liverpool this night. You know, they played against one of the best teams that we've seen. You know, to score 4 goals past them in a comeback and in the manner that what they did was, I mean, it was absolutely astonishing.
And he spotted that! They tore Barcelona naked! Brilliant thinking by Alexander-Arnold! Clinical finish from Divock Origi! Liverpool ahead! Liverpool 4, Barcelona 0, 4-3 on aggregate, and that was so cheeky!
Thank you very much, Robbie, for going through all those moments. It was absolutely fantastic speaking to you, and hopefully I'll see you very soon.
You will. When this lockdown finishes, I'll speak to you in a bit. See you in a bit.